Неговата улога се менува од ден во ден. Некогаш е предавач, некогаш консултант, а најчесто тој е човекот кој прави нештата да се случуваат. Ја основал адитив за да и помогне на маркетинг индустријата да се здобие со потребните знаења и вештини за справување со проблемите. Од The Drums TV специјално за вас и тоа со шкотски акцент ни доаѓа Dave Birss.
Hello, my name's Dave. Very lovely to be here, my first time in Macedonia. And I've brought my glass of water, whiskey, gin, just in case. Just in case. So, hello, I'll start off by asking you a question. How many of you here, put your hands up, if you would say that you work in digital? How many people work in digital? How many people here don't have arms that work? Yes, there was a few of you. So most of you here work in digital. I will ask that question again later on. But first, I just need to load up the presentation. If we just put the cassette in and press play. That's it. I used to love digital. This was when digital was good. Almost there, almost there. What I want to talk about today is that I think digital is bullshit. And I want to take you through why I don't think digital matters anymore. I'm here to just, if we've not got 6 people in the audience crying by the end of this, I've not done my job. Okay, so there we go. So first of all, a little bit of introduction to me. Hello, I'm Scottish, so I'm hoping that the translator at the back there can be translating everything in a Scottish accent. Is that all right? Good, we're in a good place. I am that's me, I've got a strange name. For some reason, it seems to be Norwegian or something, I don't know. I don't even know where my name comes from. But if you spell it wrong, it's the Jewish term for circumcision. So don't spell it wrong. I'm on the internet in these kind of places. I'm the editor-at-large for a magazine called The Drum. Have any of you heard of The Drum? Yeah, some of you have. The Drum it's Europe's biggest marketing website, so thedrum.com. And we're going total international. We've just opened up in the States. And we're not just about a magazine. And we've got our website. I run television, so I do films, and I get to play with stuff and do silly little projects that I enjoy. So last year, I did a television series. I did a 6-part TV series that aired in the UK earlier this year, which is called The Day Before Tomorrow. And all of the episodes are up online. You can see them there at daybeforetomorrow.tv, if any of you fancy having a look at that. And it's 6 different shows which look at how different industries are being shaken up by technology and what they are doing to deal with it. And it's looking from education, healthcare. Oh, the healthcare was interesting. I met a guy from NASA who invents bioorganisms. He invents bacteria that he's sending to Mars to terraform it into a planet. Shit, that stuff's actually happening. Honestly, can you believe it? I met another woman who invents robots that do surgery. Would you be happy if a robot came in with a scalpel? Scare the shit out of me. Right, I also get to do other stuff. I did some VR stuff this year. So I did a documentary, nothing to do with marketing. It was a documentary on St. Paul's Cathedral. 360 degrees, you can put on your Google Glass and not Google Glass, Google Cardboard and look around. In fact, I'd like to do a little photo with you all here, which is a 360-degree photo. So I want you all to wave. After 3, 1, 2, 3. Brilliant, look at that. You're now in 360 degrees, who would have thought? I'll put that up on Twitter and you can have a look around and see if you can spot yourself. So, and it's probably about enough about me. Oh, I wrote a book. Yeah, I wrote a book. So what? Lots of people have written books. So enough but me. Stop. Hammer time. Hammers. There's this great phrase that's, when you have a hammer, every problem looks like a nail. And the marketing industry are really bad at this. If you're a client and you go to an ad agency and you say, we've got a problem, how are you going to fix it? They're, of course, going to say, well, we can do an ad for you. If you go to a PR company with the same problem, they're going to say, yeah, PR is how you're going to fix it. And of course, if you go to a digital agency, they're going to want to give you pixels of some variety. And it's the problem that we've got these silos, that we've got these different areas, and every company that you go to has got an agenda. If you want them to solve a problem for you, they have an agenda, and they put their agenda on it. And one of the horrible things I used to be creative director of some pretty big ad agencies. And there was one time a brief came in to do a TV ad in Russia. And I get phoned up the night before it was being presented to the client to say, we haven't got an idea. Can you give us an idea by the morning? It's like, oh, balls, okay. So I worked through the night, and I came up with a bunch of TV scripts for this. And I said, I just want 2 answers. First one, what's the proposition? What is the one thing we're trying to get across? So I got a proposition. It was a good one. Second question was, how much have I got to spend? They said, oh, $2 million. And I said, all right, well, let's take off the media costs from that. How much have I got to make a film with? $2 million. My job was to spend $2 million. That is a ridiculous problem to be solving, because that problem itself almost becomes bigger than trying to solve the communications part of the brief. You are trying to spend $2 million, because what agency is going to go back to the client and say, yeah, you know, you give us $2 million for this, but we only spent $25,000. Do you want the rest back? Do you want? No one's going to do that. The agency is always going to want to spend as much money as they can get. They've got an agenda. Therefore, the industry is not trustworthy. And that includes the digital industry as much as any other part of the industry. You see, I think the future is not about silos. It's not about areas of expertise. The future to me is about integration. It's when everything works together seamlessly. And you know, you've got these, if you imagine that these different circles there are different media. So you've got advertising there, and you've got digital there, and you've got PR there, or direct mail, or whatever you want. None of those circles matter to me. It's where the overlap happens in the center. Now, what is it that goes in the center of that? What is it that holds it all together? Well, it's either a campaign thought, if it's a campaign that you've got agencies working together on, or it's some kind of proper strategy. Now, that's the stuff that's important. That is the stuff that we should be looking at, that's where we should be starting, not in any of the circles. We should be starting with what is the creative strategy, what is the actual idea that we have to work with, rather than starting with where it seems to be at the moment. Still, I cannot believe it's still this way, that it starts with a TV ad. And then that's given to agencies, and it's digital agencies, and say, hey, digitize that. How many have had that brief? That you've had a TV ad and you've been told, right, turn it into something digital. I can see a few nods of recognition there. It's a horrible thing to happen, especially when you look at the TV ad and it's nothing more really than some kind of directorial technique. We need more than that, and we need proper problem-solving ideas, and then those ideas can come alive in the different channels. So I'm really quite frustrated by the industry, by how separated it is. I was brought up in a very strange religious family. It wasn't that if you didn't believe in the little baby Jesus, you were going to go to hell. It was, if you didn't believe in the little baby Jesus and you weren't part of this church, you were going to hell. It was very judgmental. It was very much, we're right, everyone else is wrong. So I've always had a little bit of a problem with this kind of absolute mentality of we're right, everyone else is wrong. 10 years ago, I started to get really pissed off with the digital industry. I was creative director of one of the best digital agencies in London at the time as well. I get really pissed off with people saying, you know, it's the death of interruptive advertising. And I still hear people saying that. It's the death of interruptive advertising. Is it fuck? Absolutely not. There's something that's so wrong about that and so arrogant. And what has ended up happening is that the digital industry has ended up being more interruptive than television, which is the one place that they were pointing the finger at. Banner ads that pop up over your page, fuck off. YouTube pre-rolls, fuck off. All of the spam we're getting by email, fuck off. I'm not interested in that. That stuff is ridiculously interruptive. It's rude. And it's doing stuff. Oh, thank you. And anyone who's involved in that should probably go into a corner and have a long, hard talk with themselves, because it's not where the future is. Because it's got to be people first, not media first. It is the whole thing where it's the brands going into the bar and going, here, I've got a watch, want to buy a watch, want to buy a watch? Piss off, I'm talking to my friends. You know, that you've got to actually, you can't just act like that. And digital has ended up doing the very thing that they were railing against 10 years ago. Let me tell you a little bit of story. In the 1880s, there was a wonderful invention. And it was called electricity. Some of you may have heard of it. And electricity, it really started off in New York, and they started to create power plants in New York. And Edison was doing his stuff there. Oh, hold on a second, I'm just getting to Tesla. I know. All right, in America, it started with direct current, okay? And direct current was wrong. And they tried to prove that it was right. Anyway, this is a complete aside. It's nothing to do with the presentation now. But if you want to talk about Tesla, I can talk about Tesla, because he's a hero of mine. And it wasn't for another 15 years after electricity was introduced that Tesla came along, and he was ridiculed until he managed to get alternating current going. Anyway, what happened when this new technology of electricity came around is that people started to talk about it. And you'd find it be theaters, and the theaters would talk about, hey, we've got electric lights. People go, ooh. And then hotels would say, we've got electric elevators. Ooh, people just go in just to go up and down in an elevator and say, hey, we were powered by electricity. I went up and I went down. It was amazing. And then kitchens and restaurants would be saying, hey, we've got electric ovens. Ooh. So then in the 1890s and the early 1900s, people started to get it in their homes. People would get it in their homes, and they'd invite the neighbors round and say, hey, come on, look at this. Look, there's a switch. Look what happens. The switch, the light comes on. See that? Look, watch this, watch this, watch this, watch this. Click. The light went off, you know? And people go, oh, that's amazing. And everyone just thought electricity was just extraordinary. It was fantastic. Everyone was talking about electricity. It was exciting. If you were trying to excite someone about electricity in the 1920s, they would glaze over. It was no longer interesting anymore. Everyone had electricity. It's exactly the same with digital. I remember buying my first digital camera. I remember getting a digital television. I remember getting a digital camcorder. These days, if I ever wanted a camera, I would just buy a camera. I buy a television. I buy a radio. I don't use digital in that. Why are you people using it in your industry? Why are you calling your industry digital? That, to me, no longer makes sense anymore, because people don't think that way. It used to be that digital was separate and the internet was separate, and it lived in a cupboard underneath the stairs. And it had a 56K dial-up modem, and it sounded like a dolphin singing to you. And that was separate. You would do that, and then you would go, and you'd have your television moment. So you'd have analog, and then you'd have your digital moments. We don't do that anymore. Why are we even talking about digital? I sent out a little tweet last night because Twitter have got this polling thing. And I asked people, is digital even a thing anymore? I get 9 responses. Yes, isn't that great? 9 responses. Only one person said that digital is a thing. Everyone else said it wasn't. And I agree. Digital is not a thing anymore. It's just part of our lives. It's who we are. It's what we do. It's how we get access to information. It's the whole thing of stopping being interested in the water that comes out the tap and just being interested in the pipes. That's what digital is. It is only the vehicle to get information to us. And I don't see why anyone should really be handcuffing themselves by saying, I'm just digital, because that shuts so many doors for you, and I'm wanting to open doors for you. So here's a little bit of a theory about digital. There's actually a little bit of a theory about management. So at the bottom axis here, we've got time, and that axis over there, we've got seniority. So when you start in a company, time is at 0, your seniority is at 0, and then over time, you should become more senior. Isn't that the way it works? I think that's the way it works. Then there's this kind of line that goes across your career. And this line is when you go from doing to actually not doing anymore, you're managing. All right? So there's a part there where for the first part of your career, you're actually doing, you're actually working, you're making things happen, and then you just tell other people to make things happen, tell them it's not good enough, and make them cry. Now, what happened is when the internet came around in 1991, all the people in management had no experience of the internet. And that persisted for many, many years. And then people who started in the industry after the internet came around, suddenly, in the last 5 years, really are getting into management positions. So that means that people at the tops of companies in the last 5 years, really, are starting to understand the place that technology has in the business and in marketing. And that's quite a recent thing. Before that, it was a battle. Now, I think it's just people are understanding it. It's not a big deal anymore. And one of the things about digital is that you'll find is that things can change very quickly. There's the whole idea of bubbles, that there was the financial bubble. And in the financial bubble, the crash happened when people realized that actually things were overvalued and that really it was quite hollow inside. There's lots of things with digital that could potentially happen to. Social? Potentially. Certainly happened with the idea of viral. If anyone asks for a viral now, I just look at them as if they're an idiot. I don't even say anything now. And there's lots of things, because digital is all about these technologies, and technologies, I don't know if you know about the hype curve. So Gartner's hype cycle. You get this big spike. And that's when, at the beginning of the spike is when all the sort of early adopters come on. Then you get the mass adoption, and you get the spike. At that point, you get the mass adoption. The people who were the early adopters go, oh, I was into it before everyone else was. I'm not interested in this anymore. And then you get what you call the trough of disillusionment. Everyone gets bored of it. And it happened with Facebook. The early adopters got on Facebook, and then everyone was on Facebook, and then it's just, oh man, I'm so over this. And then it kind of rises up a bit, and it just becomes a tool. It just becomes a thing. And that's when these bubbles burst, is when you go into these troughs of disillusionment. And I think there's lots of stuff in digital that can happen to. I'm even hearing people grumbling about SEO these days. I don't know what's happening there. I want to show you about creativity and digital. This was the last year in the Cannes Lions that digital agencies, or agencies that described themselves as digital, picked up more digital awards than agencies that didn't describe themselves as digital. All right? So on the left there, we've got the agencies that describe themselves as digital agencies. These agencies are just ad agencies, PR agencies, direct agencies. They're not digital agencies. All right? So each of them picks up one Grand Prix, and digital picks up one more lion than everyone else who isn't digital. All right, let's look at that 2 years later, 2013. Right. Come on. Right, digital picks up 3 lions. The agencies that describe themselves as digital pick up 3 Cannes Lions. The agencies that don't describe themselves as digital, or are from another field, in the digital categories pick up both Grand Prix. Holy crap. 2 years later. This creatively is proving that digital agencies no longer have a place, really, when it comes to coming up with great work. Online and offline was the way that people used to talk about it. I don't think that matters anymore, because as humans, when we consume media, we don't think of it that way. We don't have online and offline moments. Why should we divide the industry that way? And there's a lot of marketing people who still believe that we've got a very linear direction from awareness, interest, desire, action. You know, this AIDA thing. And they think it's a very linear direction that the consumer hears about it here, and then they kind of go through these different steps, and you give them those different things, and then you send them an email, and then you can send them a mail piece, and then it doesn't work like that anymore. We are in a totally random access place now. The way that consumers come into that, how much awareness they have. But the industry isn't ready for that. It's not designed for it, and it really doesn't know what to do, and it's absolutely scrabbling about trying to do things like work out attribution. Where did people come from, and what state are they in when they get there? We still don't know what to do there. And the thing is that digital only became a thing because it was the land of the geeks, and nobody else understood it. That was the only reason that digital became a thing, was because people knew how to code HTML, and everyone else went, whoa, I'm sorry, but you've got a beard and you live in your mum's basement. I do not understand what you are talking about. Digital is not a thing. And in the last few years, what we've seen is that everyone else has been eating digital's cake. Digital's just a part of everything, which is why I'm telling you that digital is shit, all right? It's just a part of everything else. And one of the things that's happened with digital's just starting to grow up. One of the things that happens when new technology comes along, new media channels, is people don't know what to do with it. So they treat it in exactly the same way as they did with old media. So as an example here, I've recreated, this is actually true, I've recreated the world's first television ad, 1941 in America. This is it, it's running. You've got audio. That was a poster. The world's first television ad was a poster. And you had a voice reading out the headline because people didn't understand how to use the medium. I'm absolutely shocked when I look at banner ads and see that people are either chopping up press ads to put the headlines of the press ads in 3 different animations, and then hit them with a logo with click here. I still see that. I cannot believe that. That is a press ad. That is not using the digital media and the environment and everything that's used. It's not using any of the lovely assets and opportunities in any way whatsoever. It is just a press ad, and it thinks that you shout at people. And then I had an agency came to me 10 years ago, and they said, look, we're having trouble with our TV ad. People just aren't watching TV in the same way. And can we put our TV ad in a banner? And I said, that's a ridiculous thing to do. I said, I know your TV ad, and you've got lots of little things in it. And when we put it down into the size of a banner, you've basically got 4 pixels, which is a human. And it relies on music and voiceover. And no web page at the moment will let you automatically do that. And if they did do it, they'd be an asshole because it's rude. So they did it anyway. And I went back to see them after they'd done it and said, how did it work? And they said, it didn't. I said, I told you. And walked out incredibly smug. Now, why is it that people have been treating banners as if it was the old world? That put a press ad in a banner or put a TV ad in a banner is totally misunderstanding the moment that people are in. And the fact that you could potentially be helping them in that moment. You could be offering something in there. When we have rich media, all rich media is doing is opening up a connection between this little rectangle and a computer someplace on the internet. And you can do anything. You can run Photoshop inside a banner if you want to. You can do that. You can do anything. Why am I not seeing anything like that? And why is it that every single web page seems to look the same these days? You just scroll down, and there's a parallax swoop comes in, and you scroll down, and ooh, look, when you scroll, that image moves that way when the page is moving that way. Ooh. Bollocks. You know, why is it that every web page looks the same? Where's creativity gone? I think that's absolutely ridiculous. We are not properly thinking about what state is the user in? Why have they come to this page? What is it that we can offer them? Now, how do we create an experience? Isn't that a totally different way of doing it? Why aren't we doing that? Instead, we're just putting things into parallax templates, or else doing crappy multi-page sites that look as if they are just slightly better designed than they were in 1998. Right, that's me being a bitch. It's time for me to give you a bit of a hug. Because people who've been involved in digital actually have unbelievable riches. The people who've been involved in digital are about the best people there are in the marketing industry and in any industry, because you understand stuff that other people don't. People who are in digital are focused on the future. And that's so important, because, you know, that's kind of where the rest of our lives are, isn't it? People who are in digital understand that an important job is to add value. And adding value can be monetary, or it can be just making things easier for people, or it can be entertaining people, educating people, all these different things. People in digital understand this. People in advertising tend not to. They tend to think that their job is to shout on behalf of the client inside some kind of space that they have bought. An expensive rectangle, we'll shout whatever you want, client, because we've bought that space in this rectangle. People in digital know it doesn't work like that, because the whole "if you build it, they will come" thing doesn't exist. If you're awesome, they will come. That should be the new mantra. People in digital understand that things work together, that media is connected, and that journeys are connected. And because we get that, we can understand that if you're on this media device here and you're going to click on something, it's going to take you to something else. You have to get people ready for the next stage of a journey. People in advertising aren't thinking that far. I'm saying that as somebody who's been an advertising creative director, as well as a digital creative director. People in digital understand what it means for media to converge. So that actually, posters can be a little bit like a television. TV can be a bit like a website. Websites can be a bit like a shop. You know, everything is smudging. And that's a really important thing. Come on, clicker. Come on, clicker. Don't let me down. It must be digital clicker. If it had an analog clicker, everything would have been fine. There we go. People involved in digital understand that if you want to get people involving themselves in a campaign, you have to bake that in from the start, from the very beginning of the idea. Not attach it like some kind of wart at the end when you've been given a TV campaign to digitize. You understand that if you want people to share stuff, if you want it to be social, if you want conversation, if you want people to participate, that is at the core of the idea from the very beginning. And then digital people understand that when you launch something, it's the launch day of a campaign, it's not the end. Everything up until then was preparation. This is just the start. Digital people get that, because it is not about thinking about, here's how the audience is going to react, this is all the stuff they're going to love, this is what we'll do, there we go, we'll build it, right, launch day, I'm off to something else now. It's not the way to do it, because actually you want to see how people respond to it. You want to make it live. You want to make it adapt. You want to make it something that actually is worth, I hate the word engagement, it's worth engaging with, it's worth actually having something to do with. And that is more and more important in marketing than it's ever been. It's not just about shouting at people blindly. It is actually about having a two-way. And we understand that media keeps adapting. It keeps shifting, it keeps moving, and we need to follow it. And the exciting stuff is the new stuff. It's the stuff that hasn't been done before. It's pissing on the virgin snow. You know, it's finding those places that nobody else has played with and try and do a first. Because if you want to be noticed, there's only two ways to be noticed, I reckon, on the web. One is to be the first, the other is to be the best. We understand about innovation. We understand that sometimes you actually have to invent something. And that whole process of innovation as well. People are involved in digital, and they understand that you've got this cycle, this sort of iteration cycle until you've got something that's absolutely fantastic to put out there. People in traditional marketing don't understand that. Digital people do. I'm hoping you're noting this down, because this is all the stuff you should be putting in your LinkedIn profile. All right? This is the good stuff. This is what makes you awesome. We understand that when the companies or brands give us money, what they want is more return from the project than they're investing in it. It's as simple as that. We understand that better because we're looking at stats, we're looking at clicks, we're looking at how many people have visited, we're looking at all the stuff there that's far more attributable than a poster or a TV ad. We understand that because we get to see the results. And we understand that it's not just about what you say, it's also about what you do. It's actually bringing things alive. That's a really, really important thing. We understand, I'm keeping going, I know. I hope you're feeling quite happy about yourselves now, because this is all about you. We understand that lots of little ideas are sometimes better than one big idea. Because ad agencies will always go on about the big idea. And they don't actually know what you mean by a big idea, because what they mean is just a really nice TV ad. That's not a big idea. I know some of the guys who were involved in the original advertising revolution in the 1950s. They're all dying off month by month at the moment, sadly. And they're in their 80s and 90s, really old men. And I've sat down with them and asked them, when you were doing this stuff back in the 1950s, when the people started talking about the big idea, how did you work? What was a big idea? And the answer I've been getting from them is, well, it's an idea that's big enough to solve a client's problem. It just so happened that at the time, advertising had just kicked off in the 1950s and become this incredible way to reach people, to reach the masses with one piece of media, and that had never been available before. So that was a great way to solve problems at the time. It wasn't about advertising, it was about solving problems, and a big idea is something that solves a problem. And advertising may be one of the ways that that comes alive. The people who haven't done digital so far have got a lot to unlearn. They have to rewind and unlearn a whole load of stuff. We don't have as much of that to do. We've actually got a really solid foundation to move forward to the future as things continue to change. So 5 big opportunities for digital people, digital agencies. Look, you've got amazing skills. You can totally kick the ass of people in advertising. You can go in there and steal that stuff from them. You can, because you've got the skills. You know how to do it. If you know how to communicate, and you know the technology, and you know how to make things work together, boom, you've got more of what clients need than ad agencies do. If you want to create stuff, just become a fantastic resource for the people who've got the great ideas. If you don't feel that you've got the great ideas in your organization, find the people who have got the great ideas and say, look, we'll help you bring those ideas alive. Become a fantastic production resource. This is a big opportunity. If you understand innovation, if you've created products, become an innovation hub, because innovation, all companies around the world are talking about this. Jump on a bandwagon, because this is actually a pretty good bandwagon to jump on. It's exciting, it's interesting, it'll give you a really good journey, and if you know what you're doing here, you'll do well. I'm getting, in the last, well, just this week, I've had 4 agencies come to me with Kickstarter campaigns. That's just this week, 4 agencies. Because people want to make products. And there's more and more companies that I've been working with who are actually talking about products that they're creating. If they come up with a great idea, maybe sometimes go, actually, you know, if we give it to a client, it's only going to live for 3 months and then it's going to be dead. And then it's not going to be quite what we wanted in the first place. Let's just do it ourselves and turn it into a thing. Or if you want to stick with digital, just be absolutely brilliant at it. Be the best, because you're not the first anymore. So either the first or the best, be the best, And if you are, people will still want to work with you because you do great stuff. So, just a show of hands again. How many people here work in digital? Okay, there's about 6 of you now. I have done my job. So for the rest of you, that's your career. Thank you very much for listening. Shut down, yes. There we go. Thank you very much indeed.
Не, нема да го пуштиме Дейв така брзо да си отиде од сцената. Дали уживавте во предавањето на Дейв? Well, Dave, thank you for this second part of the presentation. I really loved it. I was afraid at the beginning, like, oh my God, I've brought a person on the stage that completely demolished me and all my work. I mean, come on, there has to be some catch here. So, if I understood you right, basically what you just said is that the future of marketing is the people coming from digital.
I think the people who have come from digital have got a much better understanding of how it works. I think they've got a much better understanding of humans as well. There's stuff in the digital industry that I've seen, I've been really impressed with. So even for, I'll get that, who's that? I'll answer the phone. So that people have worked in digital, sort of even seeing personas and stuff like that, where you're actually kind of like getting to understand the people that you're actually talking to. I think that's a really important thing. The fact that people in digital industry can look at stats and see if stuff has worked or not, and then work out why hasn't it worked and be able to improve it. That stuff I just think is fantastic. And I think that that is where the future of all marketing has to be, in stuff that can adapt, and not in just spending all your money up front to then go to launch and then hope that it works, but instead spending a portion of money and then knowing how to adapt as it comes alive in the real world.
How did it happen that geeks who were technology freaks, bearded guys with no communication or social skills in the real life, so to say?
Are you talking about me here?
No, younger you maybe. How come these guys are now the ones who understand people, who know how to communicate, or are these new kind of guys who are not technology freaks but they do understand technology?
If you want to go into the psychology of it, I actually think that the people who get involved in digital in the first place were outsiders.
Okay.
The people who had generally been involved in PR and marketing were people who were the ones who fit in at school. Mm-hmm. They were the ones, you know, they looked cool, they wore the nice clothes. And the people in the digital industry generally were the people who were less understood. And I think being in that place where you realize that actually you're an individual who doesn't entirely fit in, you kind of realize that everyone else is actually an individual. It's not about fitting in, it's about standing out. And I actually think psychologically that is a much better place to be than to be just one of the sheep.
Okay. Well, нормално дека може да го отвориме делот со прашања. Јас имам малце проблем да видам, меѓутоа би требало да има микрофони кои што ќе патуваат низ публика. Ако имате некое прашање, да се вклучите, слободно дигнете рака или викнете гласно за да видам заради светлото.
Is he insulting me?
Дали имаме прашање некој сега за сега или да продолжам јас да правам муавет? Ке скрши некој мраз? Нема. Добро. Чекај. Не. Okay, so they're shy. Or I can say that they're afraid to ask a question.
Ah, yes, maybe it's the Scottish accent. Would it help if I put on an English accent? It'd make me seem a little bit gentler.
Yeah. Okay, so how do you see people from traditional agencies for PR, marketing, and stuff like that, being able? What they should do to transform themselves to become part of the future of the marketing? You know, not to be left behind.
Well, it's quite a difficult thing because actually a lot of it is people are held back by the companies that they're in. I think we still have a ridiculous silo mentality of it's all about getting experts and specialists. And I don't believe it's the age of the experts and the specialists. I believe it's the age of the generalists. Mm-hmm. What I would love to see in the industry actually is agencies that are almost like the ones who come up with a creative strategy and then can work with other agencies to be the partners to bring it to life, to make it happen. I think that being in a company that has got its blinkers on and going, we're about PR, we only do PR, write me a press release, it's very difficult to work within that. I think that I was somebody who was never comfortable in one career, which is why I've moved from above the line to direct mail, to digital, to all sorts of stuff. I've been a head of art, I've been a head of copy. So I've kind of done a bit of everything just because I'm ridiculously restless. I think it's actually quite an important thing to maybe try out another industry.
Okay.
And maybe have a little bit, if you want to pick up some, if you want to pick up the knowledge, there's no better way of doing that than actually getting in there and doing it, learning from smart people.
Was this the way how you started coding, or this was a background of yours before?
Yeah.
Creative stuff.
My sort of, I've got a company where I teach people to code in a day. So people come along, get no understanding of coding, and at the end of the day, they've handcrafted their own website, HTML, CSS, put JavaScript in. I've actually got a degree in computer programming and advanced mathematics, which is not a normal thing for an advertising creative to have had. But by default, when the internet came along, I sort of found out how to look at the code of a web page and then just read it, and it just seemed to make complete sense. So I ended up just hand coding stuff for ad agencies I was in, and that was how I ended up becoming a digital guy. That I was at an agency called Crispin Porter Bogusky, and I was the deputy CD there, and I was only in my late 20s. I was far too young to have any kind of authority like that. But because I understood how to code, I would take the campaign ideas and I would create digital stuff to go with them. So I'd actually look at how some stuff could start online, and this was in the very, very early 2000s. And it was from that I kind of understood, I got really interested in actually how to do interesting stuff online. And then I just create all sorts of websites in my spare time. So, Vanya, are you there at the back? Yeah. I spoke a few months ago in Montenegro, and there's the .me web domain there. So for the conference, I knocked together a website, which is a little inspiration engine. And it's just lots of little things to just nudge you if you're coming up with ideas. And it's this site inspires.me. And I did that for the conference just for something to do. And it's the kind of thing that I've created the world's most beautiful boiled egg timer. If any of you are interested in that, you can go along to justboil.it. It's brilliant, honestly, it really works. And I just create stupid little sites just as bits of fun. And because you learn by doing, I think it's really important to just do stuff so you can learn from it.
You mentioned earlier that, one of the 5 things that digital agencies or digital people should do is to attack the overall industry. Is this starting to happen in, for example, UK, US? Are the digital agencies now becoming main players in some?
Well, it's not necessarily the agencies themselves. There's some agencies who, what they've done, I've been seeing happening in the UK, is there's been mergers between digital agencies and advertising agencies. And the strange thing that's been happening is there's no such thing as a merger. There's always a takeover of some degree. So there's always one company that works, that wins. And it's been the digital agencies.
Is it always that the digitals are bought?
It seems that way, but then it's the digital agencies that win. So the digital agencies are the ones that end up running these agencies, and these agencies then are able to do digital and everything else. And then you've got agencies in the States who are coming at it from a different point of view and more from this creative umbrella point of view. So agencies like Droga 5, that they just come up with great ways. They're about doing social campaigns and interesting stuff that involves people in the real world. And they come up with these ideas, and then they work out what media will we use to do that. And they do incredible stuff. They create their own media. There was a beautiful thing they did for an art museum that was doing this museum about how New York had changed in 20, 30 years. And what they did was this is digital stuff. They created digital technology to do this, but they used the most analog technology. They used all the old payphones in New York. And there were stickers that would be in the back of the payphone with a number on it. And wherever you were, you would type in this sticker, the number on the back of the sticker, and it was a free phone number. and then you would hear a story about exactly where you were standing at that point. That is amazing, and it's digital, using the most ridiculous analog technology. And I love that. And to me, they end up creating things which, it's all about giving people experiences. And I think that digital people are far better at knowing how to invent this kind of technology, create this kind of thing, and have a starting point that isn't just, let's fill a rectangle.
Where are the companies, where are the brands in this whole development at the present time? We were just talking about agencies and how they change, they should change, but where are the brands in this story?
Well, you know, it's the young, nimble brands. It's the ones who are the upstarts, or the ones who are willing to try stuff. It's the larger brands who aren't quite so willing to try things. Although you're finding that if you've got a really inspiring person in a marketing department, like there was with Coca-Cola, that a few years ago, the marketing director of Coca-Cola, who's now marketing director of Airbnb, Jonathan Mildenhall, he did some fantastic stuff there. And it kind of generated really interesting little campaigns that would be Coke machines that would talk to you, and Coke machines that would connect with a different country in another side of the world, so you could actually talk to people through the Coke machine. And they're doing all sorts of really beautiful stuff. There was a Coke machine that would give you a Coke if you gave it a hug. So that was the price of your Coke, was hug, which is sort of quite a sweet thing. So when you've got somebody interesting and inspiring, they will do interesting stuff. But what we should be saying to brands, to our clients, is that your marketing money is an investment. Think of it as an investment. If you are investing money on the stock exchange, you will put 80% of it into safe bets, okay? Stuff that your money's going to be safe, 80% of it. And 20% of it you put into high risk, high return. So it's stuff that you might lose your money, or it's stuff that just might do something amazing. Do that with your marketing budget. 80% of it, keep doing what you've been doing. That's absolutely fine. 20% of it, let's do stuff that's never been done before. Let's experiment. Let's kick ass. And it makes complete sense as an argument. And anyone who's got any sense in marketing will say yes. And it's probably worth. And I think that would be the most important point from today, actually, if you want to talk to your clients, is to go to them with that argument, because you can't argue against it. It makes complete sense, and it's the good thing and responsible thing for them to do.
Do you have questions, maybe? Yes, one there. Ivan.
Oh, okay. How would you approach a client in an underdeveloped market where they actually do not understand the technology? And how would you work with an agency where staff doesn't understand the technology well enough, which is the reality of regional markets?
Do you know, I understand what you're saying, but to me, the job of people who are visionary and of companies who are wanting to do interesting stuff isn't just to do, it's to educate. Because you can't expect clients to understand all of this technology and to get to know all of the amazing stuff that's out there. You just can't expect them to do that. Advertising, marketing, what we consider to be the stuff that we would do to actually sort of do advertising in whatever media is less than 20% of a marketing person's job. They've got a lot of other things that they have to look after in general, that they're trying to get this many sales this month. They have to speak to these people in the plant. They have to do, so there's a lot of stuff that they have to do. And actually, we're a small part of it. We cannot expect them to be immersing themselves in all the latest stuff. And what they end up doing is they end up jumping on bandwagons. And I would recommend that you don't do that you don't encourage them to do that. Too many companies jumped on the social media bandwagon because everyone else was jumping on it. And also because every single agency thought, this is the Wild West, maybe we can get the social media. So the ad agencies were trying to get social media companies trying to get social media, their digital agencies trying to do their social media. Everyone was recommending social media. Who is the biggest brand in the world? Apple. Does anyone follow them on Twitter? They're not on social media.
Yes.
Everyone else jumped on social media. Apple realized that actually our job is not about talking about everything and trying to make people feel involved. Our job is about creating magic and releasing it to the world. Another company that would probably be a little bit like that would maybe be Mercedes-Benz. People invented the motor car. Do absolutely beautiful products, amazing stuff. You really don't want your audience to be designing cars. How many Twitter accounts have they got? At last count, it was more than 30. So we have to think about things and ask why, rather than just jumping on bandwagons, because it can get totally out of control. People start doing it for the wrong reasons. We create a bubble, the bubble bursts. And that ends up harming all of us as well as an industry. So I think there's a really important thing is for us to educate our clients, make it easy for them, and educate our own people. Education is so, so important because people are constantly having to adapt as the industry and as the landscape and as the tech environment changes. We have to keep, not everyone's constantly looking at YouTube and TechCrunch and everything to find out all the latest stuff that's happening. It's our job is to bring them with us if we're the visionary ones. We need to bring these people with us and educate them, whether they're clients or whether they're working for our own company.
Any other questions, maybe? Yes?
There is a question from Twitter. Sorry, I'll just gonna read it. If digital agencies are no more digital, then how do they do a full campaign without so much stuff?
Without so much
Stuff, without people. Yeah.
I'm not sure if I quite understand the question. So if digital agencies aren't digital anymore, how do they?
If digital agencies are not more only digital, but they're full service agencies, how do they do the full service with the?
Ah, right. Okay. Well,
as far as I understood, I think.
well, there's a few ways of doing that, I guess. One is to hire in the talent as you need it, which obviously takes investment. There's been a lot of mergers happening, I've noticed, in America and in UK markets, where companies are coming together to become more full service agencies. But actually, there's almost a separation to me between the strategy and the thinking and the doing, the strategy and the actually creating the stuff. I think it's important to be strategically very wide, very broad. But when it comes to actually executing stuff at that point, you need your areas of expertise. So in many ways, it's then becoming your production resources digital. But actually, if you're strategically very broad, then you can be advising on everything else as well. And I think it's more of a sort of strategic job.
I have one more, I think last question. I really enjoyed the day before tomorrow. I mean, all the 6 episodes that you did. So you constantly say, I don't know what's gonna happen next. I don't know what I'm gonna do next. But what are you going to do next? Like in the next month, in the next weeks, in the next year, maybe?
I'm currently working on a pilot for a TV show just now, which is all about cliches. So it's all about the ridiculous things that you see in advertising, particularly business-to-business advertising. You know, you get somebody come up with an idea. What do you use? We're talking about ideas here. What visual are we going to use? I know, a light bulb. You know, and it's these kind of horrible cliches that you get. And we're doing a show where we're pointing those out. I'm working on a whole bunch of other stuff. I'm working on a proposal for a TV show at the moment, which is, because TV is mainly my thing now. And
digital TV or just?
I don't mind. I don't mind. My shows are out on YouTube, but they've also been broadcast on the telly box. I'm easy. Yeah, and this is about the technology that's revolutionized music, because I used to be a musician, and I'm working with a guy who built the weird musical instruments for Björk. So he's organs that are played by fire and gravity harps that play themselves, all sorts of beautiful stuff. And the two of us are wanting to create like a Mythbusters show to look at the physics and the science of sound and build our own musical instruments along the way. So that's one of my passion projects.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you again. Thanks.
Thank you all very much.